The villagers, through long familiarity, knew it to be harmless, but still they also knew it was little less than terrifying when seen for the first time. It was a kind of instrument, with 3 arms of finely planed and polished wood, each tapering to a sharp point at one end and joined to the others by a calibrated hinge. Balaram had designed it himself, soon after he discovered phrenology. It had been made for him in Calcutta, at considerable expense. But for all that it was a simple instrument, merely a set of calipers for measuring skulls. Only, at first sight, it looked as though it had been specially designed for gouging out eyes. As Balaram advanced with the claws held out in front of him, the boy shrank back, his knees shaking beneath his starched black shorts. Luckily for him, at that very moment Toru Debi turned towards the house after paying off the rickshaw. One look at the claws, and she knew exactly what was happening. She bounded up the 4 steps to the door with a cry and snatched the instrument out of her husband's hands. He dropped his head, crestfallen, and ran his fingers through his thick white hair. "Again?" she cried, herding him into the house. "You've started again? And on your own nephew, even before he stepped into the house?" She came back to fetch the boy only after she had shut Balaram safely into his study. The boy was standing on the steps in front of the door, staring silently with his large, wondering eyes at the people gathered outside, and the swaying coconut palms and fields of green rice beyond. She took him by the hand and led him into the house, and with one last angry gesture at the people outside, she barred the door behind her. But once he was inside the house, she panicked. Tugging him across the courtyard towards the smoky, soot-blackened kitchen on the other side, she shouted, "Nondama! Nondama!" Nondama hobbled out of the kitchen, mumbling toothlessly, bent almost double, no more than a few withered bones, with her widow's white homespun wrapped so carelessly around her that her dugs flapped outside, hanging down to her shrunken waist. "Give him milk! Give him milk!" Toru Debi cried. She remembered that children are said to like milk. Muttering and complaining, Nondama handed him a brass tumbler, and then, thrusting her face forward till he could see the grey flecks in her eyes, she examined him minutely. "Liverish," she muttered. "Look at his eyelids. Probably constipated, too." The boy put the tumbler down and looked away. "Be quiet, Nondama," Toru Debi said, and handed it back to him, clucking her tongue in encouragement. But he would not touch it again. What did he want? What do boys of 8 do? What do they want? Childless herself, Toru Debi knew nothing of children. Children inhabited another world, a world without sewing machines. They neither hemmed, nor chain-stitched, nor cross-stitched, nor quilted. What did they do? She had spent the whole morning worrying. How would a boy of 8, brought up in the clamour and excitement of Calcutta, like Lalpukur, she had wondered, as the cycle rickshaw, honking with flurries of its rubber hooter, took her down the red dust lanes of the village, past the great vaulted and pillared banyan tree with a tea shop and Boledar's unrepaired cycles nestling in dark niches in its trunk, past the rickety shed of the pharmacy, where the young men of the village gathered in the evenings to read newspapers and play cards and drink toddy, past the ponds mildewed with water hyacinth and darkened by leaning coconut palms, through velvety green fields of young rice to the little red brick station 3 miles away. Once she was at the station, she forgot her greater worry for the more immediate one of finding the right boy, and when at last she saw him, potato head and all, with a few bits of luggage and an impatient relative beside him, the singer which had so long and so securely colonized her heart wobbled precariously. For a moment. 10 years earlier she might perhaps have pushed the machine away altogether, but at middle age it was too difficult to cope with the unexpected. Besides, the singer had been part of her dowry. She had seen it for the first time on the morning after the traumas of her wedding night. It was her child in a way her husband's nephew could never be. On the way back to the house, she began to explain to the boy that his uncle had not come to meet him because he was busy, which was a lie. The truth was that Balaram had been afraid. He had not been able to summon the courage to meet this offspring of his brother in the impersonality of a railway platform. But he showed no interest, so she talked to him happily of the clothes she would make him on her sewing machine. That was how it was to be with Toru Debi and Alu.